Okay, my name is Joe Jordan. That's not to be confused with Joseph Jordan. Joe Edward Jordan, the Edward coming from my father's name, whose name was Joseph Edward Jordan. Therefore, to avoid being a junior, my parents saw fit to name me Joe. My grandparents, very great people, were named Harry Willard Jordan and Katie Jordan. My parents' father was born in 1915, January 14th, 1915. My mother was born on November 19th, I'm sorry, I have to correct myself. My father was born in 1910, January 14, 1910. My mother was born in 1915. They were 5 years apart. They had a very meager life. I recall them at one point in time. By meager, I mean they were very simple people. I would not go so far as to say they were poor, but neither were they very prosperous. Mom and Dad are now buried in Memorial Park Cemetery in Topeka, Kansas. And Dad died in 1985 due to prostate cancer, which was a very traumatic thing at the time, still is for that matter. It bothered me to a certain extent in that I can recall when he was told by a physician that he had prostate cancer. His comment was, "Well, I've had a good life." It bothers me today to hear that, because it wasn't as though he was giving up. I have cancer, I'm going to die. When in fact he could have, I think, fought it more vigorously. This is a picture of my parents. It was taken, excuse me, I have a fly bothering. It was taken in February 1985. I miss my mother today, I don't mind saying that. She survived Dad by some 25 years. She suffered, we now believe, from depression throughout most of her life. We didn't recognize it at the time because, again, depression wasn't necessarily a disease that poorer people had. They couldn't afford to be depressed, you know, but she was. Well, I have one sibling, a sister. She's 2 years my senior. She was born on April the 4th. That's probably wrong. However, I am happy to say that in more recent years, particularly as my parents passed away, we have become, I think, good friends, and I try to get to Topeka, where she lives today, at least once a month to go to lunch. We kind of both enjoy it, I think, and we both kind of let off steam to the other one about what our problems of the month are. So, my most important friendships, Johnny Hendricks strikes me as someone who might fall into the category, because for whatever reason, Johnny and I liked to take pictures together. And we would go out and take pictures of things in the neighborhood, stop signs, street lights again. There was nothing in the order of printing your film, and that today we had to take it when we had the money. We had to take them to the local drugstore and have them done. But we seemed to enjoy that. And for a long time, I can recall keeping a photograph album of the pictures that we took. So, and I remember him very clearly today just for that reason. I went to Howard Wilson School in the first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth grades. We then moved to Topeka, and I went to Clay School for the 6th grade. We moved over into North Topeka, and I went to Curtis Junior High School, then to Seaman High School, and then to Washburn University, and then later to Kansas University for graduate work. Earliest school day memories, I would say integration. During our elementary interval, schools were not integrated. That is, from the 1st to the 6th grade, there were black schools, there were white schools. Well, covering 12 years of school, I'll focus mostly on later opportunities in school. Drama. I liked drama in high school. It was fun to participate in plays. So I would say drama perhaps was my favorite subject in school. I liked music. I've always liked music. I sung in choirs at high school. High school was a good time. I often felt very fortunate because my classmates in my senior years saw fit to elect me as the president of the senior class, which was quite a distinction. I didn't do much as president of the senior class, but nonetheless, I was it. So I enjoyed that very, very much, and it's something I hold dear to me even to this day.
What did you learn in those first years of school that you would like to pass on to the next generation?
I like to think that tolerance, learning tolerance, is a very important thing, and patience, certainly. Respect for others is something that I've tried to pass on to my own kids. How well I've done that, I really don't know. Self-discipline. That's one of the most important things to me, in that when you have something to do, but you don't want to do it, you have to make yourself do it. It's something, if it's something that needs to be done, you have to do it, you have to do it right. The value of friendship to me has always been very, very important. You often heard it said that if you have during your lifetime 5 close friends, you're indeed unusual. When I left high school, I had no notion of going even to college. In college, my interest drifted to social sciences, and I graduated from Washburn University with a degree in psychology. Then I went to KU for graduate work, and I got a master's degree there, again in psychology. Fortunately, I found a job at a company in California. That first job involved working with members of the United States Air Force and training them in air tactics. I'm not sure I remember where I met your grandmother. I suspect it was at a beer joint named Ralph Cree's in North Topeka. We seemed to hang out there. This is in a period after college, during college. Most nights, not most nights of the week, but 2 or 3 or 4 nights of the week. And she seemed like a real nice lady. And she was interesting, and she seemed to like me, and I seemed to like her, so it seemed a natural thing to date. And at some point, we just kind of decided to get married, and that's the way that happened. I recall buying a ring, and I recall showing her the ring, and she seemed excited. Whether or not she really was, I don't know. But, you know, one thing led to another, and we decided to get married. And it was a pleasant affair. Bea Feely, who was Bea Palmer, who was Bea Keating, Barbara's twin sister, was the maid of honor. And Melvin Myers, a friend of mine even yet today, was the best man. And it was a simple ceremony of, as I have said, in their living room. And there was a cake, and there were about 15, 20 relatives there. And the weather was very, very cold today, which was reflective, I think, of the attitude of their mother, who also was very, very cold that day. She wasn't a great fan of what was going on, but, you know, she came to like me, and I thought she was a great lady, the Ada Keating I'm talking about now. We then went on a honeymoon of sorts to Lake of the Ozarks, actually to a small lake next to Lake of the Ozarks called Lake Taneycomo. And we had fun, you know. We went around in boats and did what you do when you go on honeymoons. I remember that pretty well. One thing led to another, and I could get far more explicit on that, but I think most people who will see this will have their own understanding of the kinds of things that happen that lead to the birth of kids. So we have stuck together through some good times and some not so good times. We've had a good we had a good marriage. I would, and with her, particularly with her disability, I have come to admire her even more for the way she has dealt with that. I would have to describe her as being my personal hero in that regard, because she has had a hard time. She has handled it so well that I just can't say enough about that. We flew to Switzerland. Weather was overcast at the time, and I happened to see a sign sitting beside the road in Swiss, which I didn't understand, but there was a symbol on it that indicated that there was a chairlift there. So I decided, hey, let's see what this is. So we got on it, and we started going up. We went up and up and up into the clouds, and as we got into the clouds, all of the reflection of the sun came to us off of the clouds, and we went into a whole different world, up into the mountains, into the Alps. And I have a picture here of a place that we had to stay for the afternoon because we couldn't get back down, but it is in the Alps. And we sat there at this villa, if you will, and had beer and French fries. And it's one of the most memorable events I've had in my life, of being on a vacation. Currently, I'm involved with the Platte County Sheriff Department, and in their civilian patrol, I drive a car, a marked car, and keep my eye open, but I enjoy doing it. I have attended church, as I say, but I never found them very fulfilling. That is, the experience of attending church. Yes, I will go to church on Christmas. I will maybe go to church on Easter, and I find them enjoyable circumstances. But over the long term, I just don't get out of church what I need to get out of it. My feeling about religion is that I do believe that there is a God. I have found myself walking out the front of the house in previous times, looking up at the sky to get the paper in the morning and saying, "Thank you, God," because it's a wonderful day and I'm feeling good, and I want to express that. I believe for the most part in prayer, although events of this year, that is the loss of my son, have caused me to be a little bit cynical about it because of simply the way all of that played out. I view religion differently in the sense that my relationship with a superior being is not so much with a superior being, but it is with a friend, someone with whom I can talk, someone with whom I can show my appreciation of the things that have been given to me, someone who I can ask for help when I need it. But I believe in God, and I have no problem in saying that. What would I tell children about faith? I would tell them that there are lots of ways in which they can express their feelings about a God, whomever they perceive that God to be. I would tell them simply about religion, and it can be, if they will use it as such, a great comfort in times of hardships. As I was saying, living as we did, I mean we, Barbara and I, with at the time 2 kids in LA, in Venice, that was very enjoyable because it was so different. It was a different lifestyle out there than we had been used to here in the Kansas area where we grew up. But we thoroughly enjoyed it because we were close to the beach. We'd never seen the ocean before, and we lived there for about a year, and then came back and lived in southern part of Kansas City. So that was my major memory of that.
Any sad, tragic, or difficult times you'd care to share, such as losing a loved one, a job, or something you cared about?
Well, that is probably a pretty obvious answer to that question, because the, the death of our son this year, March the 16th, was a very, very difficult time for all of us, and much more so than I had ever thought would be. And to a certain extent, I have come to accept the terms of that. But you never forget your son or a daughter. It's just not possible. They weren't supposed to go when they did, and we'll miss him forever. And I can't think of any other circumstance in my life that would top that. Yes, the death of your parents, of course. My father died of, excuse me, of cancer. My mother died of congestive heart failure, but they were at an advanced age. Those kinds of things are not so extraordinary when people die at the ages where they're supposed to die. But the death of our son, that wasn't supposed to happen. I think the lesson I've mostly learned is that the things that you enjoy and love can be taken from you so quickly, and there's nothing you do to keep it from happening. It's something, as I've already said, you'll never get over with, and you just come to accept, and you endure, but you'll never forget it. I did learn, and I wish I could pass on to all of my offspring, and the fact that setting goals is a way to get things done. Of course, you have to define something, you have to find something about which you have a passion. Getting a passion about something is the first order of business that will lead you wherever it is you want to go. If you set goals based upon that passion and don't let anything stand in your way of it in terms of achieving those goals, you'll be okay in life. You really will. Oh, I suppose I'm most grateful in life for my family, particularly for my kids, my grandkids. They are the delight of my life, and I can't think of anything other than to say that I truly love them all, and I am disappointed that my relationship with some of them is not what I would have it be, but I guess that too is a part of life. We do have a small acreage which is out by the town called Farley, and all of us seem to enjoy spending time there when the mosquitoes aren't bad and when it's not too hot, because there is a pond there, and we've had some funny events. Going back to funny events, one occurred a couple of years ago when one grandson was back, as Gabe Wozniak Jordan is his name, and Tyler was out there with us, and I think Tyler kind of helped push Gabe into the pond, which everybody got a big chuckle out of it. It was funny. I was concerned as a grandfather. I thought, my God, the kid's going to drown, but it didn't happen that way. Of course, it had a very, very, very happy ending, and it's something that there again, if I were to think about things and how they came out and all the funniness that can happen in life, I would put that at the top of the list. Well, there's many things that I have learned that I wouldn't like to share with the younger generation, but there are some words that I have borrowed from other people. Preparation, no matter what it is you're doing, is a very, very important thing. If you want something, you want it badly, there again, develop a passion for it, and don't expect things to be easy, because things never are. Things that are worthwhile, if you have to work at them, it's going to be hard. There is a public speaker named Zig Ziglar, a man I admire a great deal. I don't know him personally, of course, but he has written one little phrase that I kind of sticks in my mind forever. His basic statement is, the best way to get what you want in life is to make sure that other people get what they want. Which simply says, in my mind, if you're wanting to get ahead in life, if you're wanting to achieve those kinds of things that most of us want to achieve in life, you do that by doing things for other people. That's the way it works. It's the way it always has. And if I could leave words of wisdom with anybody, I could not do any better than to borrow from this document here called the Desiderata. It came to my life in the 1960s when we lived in Dayton, Ohio, and it speaks of a way of life and all the things that people need to do to get what they want and to give what they need to give to get what they want. I'm not going to read all of this. Anybody that's interested in it can go to the internet and today find copies of Desiderata. It was originally published in 1937, that much we do know. But when I just read it, I'd always intended to memorize it, never got to do it. But when I do read words like, go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. That, to me, those kinds of sayings just should be the basic guidelines by which we all conduct our lives.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell your future offspring, of offspring?
No, other than have a good life, enjoy your life. Again, develop a passion for something, no matter what it is. Hopefully it's for the good of mankind, but develop a passion and go for it, and don't let anybody or anything stand in your way of the achievements that you need to make to have the kind of life you want to have.
Well, I wanted to come over, hello guys, and say thank you for doing this.
It was my pleasure, although I'm not pleased with my performance on it. I stumbled, I was clumsy with words, I wasn't fluid, I wasn't glib, but it's done.
I think all future generations will appreciate it.
Okay, if you say so.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think everybody does, so.
So.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.